and welcome to Web Vibes Only, where we explore the latest in web development and design. I'm Ankita Sood, and with me I have Kyler. How are you doing, Kyler?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about this.
Me too. So today we're going to talk about not all, but most of the Angular libraries that we have come across for building a design system on top of it, or just building a design system with it. We have been looking at these for a while and just wanted to share our thoughts about that. So the first one that we're going to look at today is actually something, if you've been working with Angular, there's no way you've not heard of it. It has been built by the Angular team, maintained by the Angular team, and ever since Angular has existed, this library has existed. It is Angular Material. It's built on top of Material UI. It has about 37 components. The most weekly NPM downloads for any UI library for Angular has about 1.7 million weekly downloads. Here you can see all the components, and it also has a CDK, which is a component development kit. The components for this library are built on top of the CDK, so you can build your own if you don't like the Material UI aspect of it. Otherwise, all these components are built based on Material design. Up until recently, they were a bit more tricky to customize or redesign them. However, the Angular Material team has spent a tremendous amount of effort making them customizable using CSS variables. So all you have to do is use these overrides, functions, and update the tokens for it.
Yeah, it's been really impressive the amount of effort that they've put into making this more customizable. That was a pain point for a long time. So just to highlight some pros with Angular Material is that it is maintained by the Angular team, like you said. So it is versioned exactly the same way as Angular. So when Angular has a release, so does Angular Material. So you know your UI library, your UI library will always be up to date with Angular. You're not going to be waiting around for you're not going to be stuck on your current version waiting for your UI library to ship an upgrade.
Yeah.
So that's one of the great things about this. And now it's very customizable. Some of the cons to this is there's at only 37 components and some additional utilities through the CDK, there's not a huge component selection here. It has enough, like it probably covers 75-80% of what you might need. But if you're getting into some like heavy dashboard type stuff, showing graphs and that kind of thing, or even more complex table workflows, you're either going to have a lot of work to do with material to get it to work, or for the most part, when it comes to dashboard and graphs, you're going to be creating your own. That's something to keep in mind. Solid UI library choice, but there are some drawbacks, some missing pieces.
Yeah, well said, Kyler. I think it's a great way to get started for sure. And a great option for enterprise apps, but also probably not enough. I think one of the biggest complaints by everyone has been we need more components. We need more things that can be used by directly being able to use the material library, because as we will see, some of the other libraries have a massive amount of options available in terms of theming and customizing, and just the number of components or options available. So that's one thing the material library lacks in. However, the pros and cons to everything, it kind of compromises by the fact that it's always up to date with the latest version of Angular. It is completely zoneless and push-based on push change detection, and leverages all the modern Angular development features. Let's move on to the next big one, that is PrimeNG. This one has about 80 plus UI components, which is quite extensive, to be honest. It covers a lot of components that you might need for your application, and some that you probably will never see, but still it's good to have out there. And this one gets about more than 500,000 weekly downloads, so it's very extensive.
Yeah, it's a very solid choice. Tons of components there. You know, they've got a theme designer, which, that's something that we don't always see in U libraries or UI libraries, but is becoming a little bit more common. They've got some built-in themes out of the box that if you just need to ship something quick, the default themes they look good enough to be production ready, and you can customize them as you go. But for a prototype, they work well. This latest version of PrimeNG, I think it was around version 18. I might be wrong. When they ship this kind of like this new version of PrimeNG, it looks a lot better. A lot of the configuration options are a lot easier than it was. So when it comes to pros, you have a ton of components here, and a lot of them lend themselves very good to a more responsive design. It's pretty customizable with CSS tokens. There's a theme designer to help you customize the stuff. It supports multiple design systems like Material, Laura, and that sort of stuff. Their documentation site actually uses the UI library, so as you change the theme, you can kind of see what it's going to look like, which is something that's really great. To be fair, Material has that too, but Angular Material has that too. Some of the cons with PrimeNG is, and a pain point that a lot of people have talked about for a long time is they ship breaking features quite often, about every version. That is rumored to stop going forward, but the developer relations advocate Calgary, I think his name is, if I'm saying that right. He posted on X shortly or recently talking about the future of PrimeNG is net new UI library package called PrimeNGX, where they're gonna try to help leverage some of the more current Angular features. Kind of it's got 534,000 weekly downloads, so it's pretty widely used. When it comes to pros and cons, there's a lot of pros, but the cons seem pretty heavy too. Not sure that it's a worthwhile investment at this point.
Yeah, if you're trying to use it, maybe hold on till they publish the new library. That would be our recommendation, but you're already on it. Let us know what your experience has been with it and how you've been, if you've also faced similar challenges with their breaking changes that they've been pushing out and things like that. Personally, I've never used it, but I know that a lot of companies around here use it. So it's open source, just like Angular Material. I think that's one of the things that one of the things that attracts a lot of people to it, and the fact that it has good customizable, themable options. But like we said earlier, every one of these libraries have pros and cons, and it's just a matter of what suits your business needs and what floats your boat. Let's move on to the next one. We have Taiga UI, which by far has the best documentation website in terms of the look and feel aspect of it. Just as I'm scrolling, I can see that they're really leveraged view transitions and scroll animations and things like that that are super modern and give it a very modern look. It is, as of now, seeing about roughly close to 14,000 weekly downloads on npm, and it has about 120 components, which is a lot. I think that it's everything you can ever need, possibly more, and it seems like a great option for people to try out. It's interesting that some of these libraries don't really follow semantic versioning that correlates to the Angular's versioning. So even though it says version 4.45, it is on the latest version of Angular already. One great thing about this library that it has Taiga UI, Taiga Core, Taiga Mobile, and it also has about 7 charts that you can use. So lots of great options here.
Yeah, so there's two UI libraries we're going to talk about today that I think people are sleeping on, and this is one of them. One of the things that I really like about Taiga UI is that there are tons of mobile-oriented components here. So not just responsive components, but actual mobile-oriented. You can find a couple of examples in there, like swipe actions, for example. If you've ever tried to recreate like this kind of mobile feel in a responsive design on your web app, then you kind of know the pain point in creating something like a swipe action or something like that. Take UI has this stuff built in. There's also a pull to refresh, a mobile calendar, mobile dialogue. All of this kind of stuff really helps you create a more like mobile feel. So if you're building something and you also want to leverage something like a PWA, or maybe you just want the mobile version of your site to feel more native, Taiga UI's got you covered. It has a pretty impressive offering with 120 components, including some chart libraries. That covers most of what you're going to see on your average dashboard, and it's very customizable. It's really a very solid choice. And at only 13,000, just under 14,000 weekly downloads on NPM, I think it's safe to say people are sleeping on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has been exponentially growing in terms of the number of components that they're adding, the design style, the design direction that they're heading is really great. It looks very modern and futuristic and customizable. So it has quite many cool things going on for it for sure. Okay, let's move on to our next big library that we want to highlight today. and it's called Angular primitives. It's actually quite different from all the other ones that we've been looking at so far. Overall, it only has 32 primitives. And notice the word primitives and not components. It's because the way that this has been designed is that they're all actually directives, and that makes it easier to customize and adopt because you are in total control of how you leverage this. It's upon you on how you style these primitives because you'll be styling them from scratch, and there's nothing that you have to fight against or override to be able to customize it.
Yeah, this is a really interesting approach. And before Angular primitives came out, this is an approach that I haven't seen before, at least in the Angular community. Styling with this is pretty much like styling the native web. So you're free to choose whatever you want. If you want to go with Sass or less and use Sass and less variables with mix-ins and all that for to kind of control your theme, you can do that easily. If you want to use Tailwind, that's up to you. There is no theme API that you have to check compatibility with. There's no theme API you have to learn. You have this is like styling the native web. So it's simple, minimal, and I think it has a lot of promise. That covers most of the pros here, but there are some cons, and some of the cons are if you want a design system, this doesn't come with ready-made components. You're going to have to make your own. And while it's extremely powerful and it doesn't really get much more versatile than this, that does require more work, right? So if you want something with ready-made components that can, that can help you ship quickly, this may not be the option for you. But if you're building a highly customized design system from scratch and you really need to ensure top level flexibility and customizability, this is probably what you're going to be looking for.
Yeah, and the fact that this has only been around for 1 year and how it has already seen more weekly download than numbers than some of the other ones that have been around for a long time, about close to 2,500 weekly downloads. It was the first version ever was released in April 2024. Yeah, I agree. It's a very interesting concept of building a UI library of directives. And I think specifically ever since Angular has introduced host directives, that's where it truly shines and its potential can be really seen. And I'm excited to see where or which direction this library heads into. If they're going to continue building directives or maybe add some more components or more options out there in this library. I'm just curious to see how this library grows for sure. It's a great option to check it out. All right, the next one that we have for you is Kendo UI. I think this has been around for quite a while now because it has about 110 components. And it's not just for Angular. Even PrimeMG has a Vue option and a React option, and so does Kendo UI. And that's what makes it more popular with enterprise companies. I think that some companies that have more focused on not just Angular, but on multiple frameworks, they just choose to leverage a library that is available across multiple frameworks also. Over 110 components, that is massive. The fact that they also have not charts, a rich text editor, and so many other things, that kind of explains why they have above 80,000 weekly downloads for this. I mean, the list of components is just huge and it is pretty customizable for whatever it is. The only thing that I think kind of makes people pause for this for a minute is the sticker price, which is it's not cheap. If you, for an enterprise company to try it, you don't even know, you have to kind of request a code for it. So
Kendo UI is a very complete solution, especially for enterprise customers with deep pockets. But you're going to need deep pockets. If I remember right, the cheapest licensing option is like $800. Yeah, $800, $900, and that's the cheapest option. And that's very limited. You can kind of see their price options here, and it's pretty steep. That said, if you can create the buy-in for that, they have a lot of great things to offer. 110 components. They have a theme builder that helps you customize your theme. That's behind a paywall, of course, so you can't see it unless you have a license. But it includes a bunch of things that you would like, enterprise-ready components, things that you're not going to find in many other places, like a bunch of charts, rich text editor, an AI prompt components, drawing components, drag and drop components, PDF viewer and export components. It's a lot of those kind of things that you're not going to find in other places, Kendo UI offers. It's a very strong offering, and if you get the license, then you and your team will have the support of the Kendo UI team, which, for enterprise level, that definitely has some pros to it. But I don't personally, I've never worked on a team that, even at an enterprise level, that could justify this level of expense. There's just too many other things that required money, and this was not something that we were willing to spend that chunk of change on. I don't think it's economical for smaller companies. But I'm open to being wrong. If you have experience with this, if you or your company uses this and you have any information about it, if you think it's worth it, we'd love to hear from you in the comments.
Exactly. If you feel like the cost is justified, I am curious to learn that. I mean, it is true. They've been around forever. The first version was released in June 2019. They're currently on version 16. So they've gone through a lot of iterations and they seem like a stable choice that is not really going anywhere and have a solid and customizable design tools. Yeah, let us know if you've ever used it or what your experience has been with it. All right, the next one, Spartan NG. It is the Shadcn version of for Angular. Something about this is also, I don't think it's as popular in the Angular community, but it is also something that is super duper customizable and has been quite an interesting way of how the overall approach for this library has been, because you own the components. There are 46 components that they provide, but you are in charge of how you customize them and implement them. And it sees about 2,400 weekly downloads on NPM currently, but I also think it's because version 1 has not been released yet. But as soon as that happens, I think this will pick up more than it has currently.
Yeah, yeah. The Shadcn paradigm is becoming really popular in other places, especially like React community. I've seen it a lot used in Svelte community. There's a viewport of Shadcn, and what's really interesting about this paradigm is this is not a component library that you install. This is all of these are kind of independent packages. And if you want a component, then you run a command and add it to your design system. And that's not a package, I guess. It's more of it uses a generator to create this component for you in your code base, wherever you specify as your reusable UI folder, like where you're going to keep your design system. So, and it basically takes this HTML code that you see here and it creates this component for you. The component lives in your code base. It's up to you to maintain. You can modify it the way you see fit. So it's really customizable and you completely own your design system. If you don't need a component, you just don't pull it in. You pull them in as you need it. That helps handle bloat, keep a handle on bloat. So, it's a really solid choice. I'm glad to see that this kind of trend, which is something I think is really powerful, has made its way to Angular. I'm excited for the V1, and I think this would make a really strong offering.
Yeah, absolutely. The add as you go approach, and it's nice to see that they have both NX and Angular CLI options over here. So it just gives the end user, the most power to adopt it and customize it the way they want. And sometimes that's what you truly want to be able to do. Is just have something to run with and just customize it that meets your brand guidelines.
Oh yeah, and one more thing to talk about before we move on from this one is that all Shadcn libraries use the same design tokens.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go to the theme designer that I think is technically made for the React version of Shadcn, and you can design your theme there, and then you can take your theme variables to your viewport, your Angular port, your Svelte port, and it just works. So you have a theme designer at your disposal. It's free and it's pretty good and pretty easy.
That's pretty amazing because I think that's one of the things that is always the challenge when you have a monorepo with multiple apps and multiple frameworks, that you just have to, it just becomes such a big overload having to maintain multiple variables based on the framework.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's tons of strong points that this library has going on for it. Okay, and then lastly, we have Flowbite. Flowbite is also a super interesting approach to designing UI components or presentational components, whatever you want to call them, because this is another one of those you create your own components. It doesn't really seem to have a lot of weekly downloads right now, like close to 350 weekly downloads, which we are actually not sure why. It has about 67 open source UI components, as you can see over here, which the design wise, they are absolutely phenomenal. And again, like you just pick and go, you just copy from the code for it and you just add it. And it's built on Tailwind. So that's one thing that you have to remember, that you will have to install Tailwind to use this library, which I don't know if that's even a deal breaker or a blocker for most people, since I think they do use Tailwind for their applications. But yeah, you just click on a block and use it and run with it. It's really great.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that there was two in this list that we were going to talk about that I think people are absolutely sleeping on, and this is one of them. Flowbite is amazing. If you haven't checked it out, you need to go stop what you're doing right now and go to flowbite.com and look at what it has to offer. This is one of the most versatile solutions out there. You pull in Flowbite, you get some theming stuff out of the box, you get Tailwind. Basically, what you have here is you go to their components, which are really like bits of UI, just like this. You have HTML, and it gives you with the Tailwind classes. It's up to you to create your own components out of that. So if you're using Angular, React, doesn't matter. You create your own components out of that. They live in your code base. You maintain them. You can modify them as you see fit. You own them completely. You own the styles, and it's, you just use Tailwind for that. You can create the components as granular or as big as you want. So here we're looking at this piece. You can create a team member card and make a reusable team member card, for example, and then you can use that in like this entire like block here, team member card block. Like there's so many solutions here. There's so many blocks that are pre-made for you: hero images, hero sections, landing pages, marketing UI sections like call to actions and feature sections, content sections. All of this is pre-styled for you. All you have to do is copy and paste it into your Angular app. That's it. Copy and paste it into your Angular app, and you can create reusable components from this as you see fit. Using NG content, you can customize and project content as you need to into them to make them a little bit more reusable. So this really helps you move fast, ship something quick, and you retain total ownership over what you have. This is something that people are absolutely sleeping on. It's incredible. You can get so much done so fast.
That is true. Yeah, it is really customizable, and that is definitely one of our favorite parts about it. All right, and I did lie to you. There's one more we do want to cover and share with you, which we honestly, I had never heard about until we started looking up all the options for Angular, is Syncfusion. So if you have used it or are using it or thinking of using it, definitely leave some comments and let us know what your experience has been with it, because it has some really big logos on its website, and the pricing of it is very comparable, or actually probably cheaper if I remember right. It's very comparable to Kendo UI. So I wonder how it works, or how the price point works, and how they have this option compared to, I don't know, like the other paid ones out there.
Yeah, the component list is scroll down at the bottom here. There's 90 plus UI components, and this one has a lot of stuff that we saw from like Kendo UI, from like rich text editors, like a lot of your diagrams, like diagram heat maps, circular charts, even 3D circular charts. A lot of barcode generators, sparkline charts, bullet charts, Kanban. It's got a lot of stuff from data visualization. It's got schedulers, calendars, time pickers, all kind of stuff like that you are more likely to need in an enterprise type setting. And in my opinion, it doesn't have all of the same things that Kendo UI does, but it has a lot of them. And the price point is quite different. So there's a lot of things that I could this type of expense for Syncfusion would be a lot more justifiable for in most places that I've worked. So definitely worth checking out. And I've never been anywhere or seen anyone actually use this, there are people out there using it. It's got almost 70,000 weekly downloads. So it is being used. It's got a theme studio also. And if you use it or if you have any direct experience with it, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, they have quite few tables on their website highlighting what they have and what Kendo doesn't, or other vendors similar to Kendo and Syncfusion don't have. So that's interesting to see. But any library that has charts is already, it has a big leg over material and all the other options that we've been looking at, because there are hardly any enterprise applications that don't need a charting solution or just some form of data visualization. Yeah, this is a really great option, I think, if you want to just get started and have so many components out there for you. And last but not the least, one other option that you have for yourself is leveraging IBM's design system, which is called Carbon. So Carbon has been around for quite a while, but it has primarily had support for React and just web components. However, the Carbon components for Angular framework have been maintained and published quite frequently by the community. And their documentation largely relies on Storybook. It seems like they are currently on version 14 of Angular, which is a bit antidated, but who knows? They might be updating or working on updating it soon. But if you want to use it, maybe you can contribute, because like I said, it's a community project, a community framework that has been built on IBM's Carbon design system. So I think it is pretty impressive that they have so many component options and a thoroughly researched, well-defined, already very well-documented design system that someone can just run with.
Absolutely. I think we've gone through the entire list now. There's actually a lot of options, a lot of good options in Angular these days. Uh, if we miss something that you like to use, let us know. Let us know what you like about it. And if you have any additional comments about anything we've mentioned here, we'd love to hear your experiences. We as a community can always learn from experiences that, everyone has. So if you have something to offer, we'd love to hear from you.
And thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.